Right. Then I'm pushing the button because it's Wednesday.
Yay!
We're about to land, Mrs. Ryan. What on earth could that noise be? Forgot my blue card.
Jeez.
Had to go get it.
Glad you got it.
Had to hover over to go get it.
I mean, jeez.
What's happening, Mrs. Ryan? It's like the old radio days. Get your props, everybody. Get your props.
Yeah.
What's happening?
Going along, man.
Yeah, we're a little crooked there. Sorry, that's my fault. Hi, Mrs. Ryan. Hi, I'm excited to see you. Hi, everybody else. Welcome back. Let's see. Tonight is Wednesday, October 2nd, 2019. This is our first show in October. Happy Halloween month, Mrs. Ryan.
Happy Halloween month.
My name is Jay Ryan. This is Nicole Ryan. We are the Ryans, and this is a good old time in the old-fashioned late night playset. I think we should start. It's definitely late night playset, but I think we should just start treating it what it is, more of a place, kind of like welcome back to the old late night playset or something like that.
Like
you know what I mean? Because the set is almost more of the star of the show than we are at this point, which is what I think is probably good. I think that's the proper hierarchy there. But anyway, tonight, our guest is Mr. Mike Rowe. Maybe not the Mike Rowe you're thinking of. This fella, I don't know how many jobs he's had and the cleanliness of them, but he's not the guy from Discovery. This guy is a little bit more up our alley, career in comedy. We're going to talk to him and all of the different facets and some great stories I think we're going to hear today as well.
Wait.
In just a little bit when he gets in here. But Mrs. Ryan, until then, we've got a few hellos to do. It's been a few days since we've seen everybody. Mm-hmm. We had a weekend in there and everything else. But most importantly, how are you doing?
Today's one of those not awesome days, Jay Ryan.
Well, it's been a few of those days, to be honest.
Yeah, my body's falling apart, but sometimes it just happens all at once, and then sometimes it's a long, slow, whatever. This is one of those I fell down a cliff, metaphorically speaking. So
with a big smile on. I mean, truly, yeah. I feel like you're taking it better than you ever have before.
Hopefully, that's growth.
Is it? Is it a realization? Is it your own growth? What is it?
Every time I go through one of these flare-ups and I reset, I get a little bit better at finding how it all works because it's different every time, but it's usually
picking up more pieces, collecting more data along the way, your own data.
More data and different things get affected differently, so I have to recalibrate how I adjust that stuff every time. So it just is. It feels like it should be more in control because it's an emotional things I learned cross mix.
What is the it we're speaking about? Is it physical, mental, MS, the fatigue? What is the it?
I'm not going to say for sure because sometimes it's different, but...
okay. Well, I mean, what are you referring to now?
This one specifically, my body gets triggered by pain and it just completely fogs up my head so it can't figure out which is which.
Oh, man.
And so then I get lost in the murk of that, trying to figure it out for a minute.
So you're trying to figure out, wait, is whatever's going on in your life that's causing a flare-up at that moment, wait, is this something that's going on, or is this physical inside me, or is this mental, is this not even happening at all? Is that the kind of fight you're talking about?
Mm-hmm.
That sounds like a struggle.
It's trippy.
Sounds like a struggle. Well, it's hard to maintain your reality doing that, and the reality is really all we have to, call sanity, I guess.
Yes, and I have none. So
wow, I was not trying to say that by any means.
I'll own it. I feel so crazy sometimes.
It must make you feel that way.
Yeah, I never know what's real, what's not. And then you add my balance to that. Good luck figuring out that.
Right. Well, it's almost like a lost touch with reality type thing because your brain is losing touch and then your physical. Wow, that's so weird. And then we figured out we made your cane the right height, the proper height a cane should be. There's a science to it. Oh, the blah, 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 the crack of your wrist, blah, blah, blah. And you're physically in a great place when you're standing there and you're just in one place and everything is right. Your shoulders line up, your hips, everything's good. And then you try to go somewhere and your body isn't, and you need the longer. It's almost like it's weird. It's like you need a stilt, a tripod, a leaner. Ski poles. You need to walk with ski poles.
Ski poles.
Like training wheels.
Yeah. I think that's it. I did I was looking around a lot of videos and things of people with kinks. I was trying to figure out why mine was so discombobulated sometimes.
Okay. What did you figure out?
Nothing really, except that typically older people that use canes walk like this.
Hunched over,
so
yeah.
it's not as much of a problem for them to like move and shuffle out. They're already in that space.
Depends on what you're using the cane
So
for.
yeah, depends. It's all different.
All right, well, hang in there. I mean, this is one of those things that we're figuring out by the day. You know, we don't know how it's going to be. And that brings me to where we were yesterday. We had a show planned. We had a fantastic guest booked who will be here soon. Can I say her name? I should speak. Laura. It's just Lauren Rochelle, right? Lauren Rochelle is a business owner, CEO. Did I read that she was actually on the Forbes 30 under 30 as well? Or she was listed on it? So we know a couple of our young... Anyway, somebody we met up at Breakfast Club. She and her partner had brought their new baby to... did they bring the baby out or they were about to have? No, what was the deal? I can't remember. I think they did.
I think they did.
Yeah, I think they did too.
I
think
met them
we met
so
the whole,
briefly.
The whole group. Anyway, with their 9/11 up there at Breakfast Club. And just, one of those kindred spirits, good vibes kind of thing. And found out, oh my gosh, she's a really interesting person. We should have her on the show, and blah, blah, blah. So... that's what was going to happen yesterday. What actually happened yesterday was Mrs. Ryan's energy was in the shitter, and so was her body, and really everything. Anything you want to share with that?
I overheated and passed out and fell down. It was very weird. And then I was
exhausted
trying to... That's exhausting. That's how it all happens. It culminates in like my body literally, or we were in the middle of a conversation and I heated and fell down.
She doesn't... none of her... It's like... Imagine a race car or a steam engine is even better because there's so many gauges and all these different levers and gauges and different things, sensors and whatever. And it's very, very complicated. All of her gauges are broken, don't work. They've been ripped out, sold for scrap. I don't know what happened.
False readings.
But somehow, like, I'm her sensor, so I have to see a lot of this stuff coming. I didn't see this yesterday. It out of the blue and just boom happened. But I don't know. I'm glad that I'm usually there with you to be your sensors. That's sometimes where we got to skedaddle out of a car show real quick or something like that too, because I'll see it coming on or whatever. I'll see the eyes go crossed and whatever else. And it's like, drink some water, let's sit down the whole bit, get some food, whatever it is. And then sometimes we just got to go, like Keanu up at Newcomb's. Bobo, I got to go.
Yeah.
All right. So I feel like that pretty much has us caught up. We had some nice time in the weekend. I don't remember where we went. LA Carson Coffee was great. Breakfast Club was
really
great.
Great weekend.
And it was great to see so many people out there. That's for sure.
Definitely.
Talked to some new people at Carson Coffee. It was really fun.
Yeah, that was super neat.
Mrs. Ryan, that's all I have for that. I have a quick East Coast feed to play, and then Dave Watch, and then what's going on. That's all. That's it. And then we're going to get our guest in here. So, 'cause I'm excited to hear some stories. The people that we have stories to talk about are spectacular and right up my alley. I can't even if the stories suck, it's like, yeah, but you were there. And I don't think they will. Okay, East Coast feed. Danbury Chive and Ridgefield BMW, I'm thinking. Let's roll it and see where we are.
Mr. and Mrs. Ryan, East Coast Feed, Jim Delaney and I. Hey there. Sitting out here by the lake at work, little ambiance, And Delaney, what are we having for lunch today?
Some really fancy.
It's pretty cool.
So, dirty water hot dogs that are like in Manhattan that you can get on the corner for like a fucking $1. Well, so this guy's like in Ridgefield. It's called Chez Leonard. And they charge like $85 a hot dog, and they put it all in some other fucking language like French or something. And it makes it worthwhile. What do we get? We got relish and mustard.
Mustard, relish, bacon.
What else do you really need in a hot dog? So I'm going to take you over real quick, because I know you guys are wondering what's going on here on the East Coast today. And look, Christian's here. Say hi, Christian. There he goes.
Cornhole.
Get everybody involved. We got them all involved. But here, take a look. Just take a look at the line of people. Just waiting.
They got a basketball?
There they go. Oh, everybody's there. And look,
a lot of
actually
activity.
dirty hot dogs.
Dirty water hot dogs. That was it. That's our random day. Love you. East Coast Feed out.
Wow. I love that, Kaz, man. Good grief.
It's a lot of activities.
Yeah, that's pretty
there.
cool. And it doesn't look like it's, sometimes they'll do that stuff for the customers and everything. Oh, it's a fair day, and you get them in to sell the cars and the whole thing. This almost definitely seems to just be for the employees, right?
That's
Out
what
back
it looked
and the
like
whole thing.
for me. Yeah. Just
That's
employees.
awesome. That's
Appreciation.
awesome. Kudos to Ridgefield BMW over there in Ridgefield, Connecticut, right down Route 7. I was laughing at you, Mrs. Ryan, when I came into the studio because right before we were about to start today, I found out that our guest is from the same area that I'm from in Connecticut. And so he said, oh, we'll talk about it out there. I said, Mrs. Ryan, I just got to go to the bathroom real quick, and then we'll start it up. And she said, okay, great. And so I started to walk away, and she's like, so where are you from? Where is that?
I'm directionally challenged. I literally was trying to see in my head where it was in Connecticut.
Oh, yeah.
Well,
we'll get to all of that, but that's I have all of these pieces, so I was like, oh, well, wait. Anyway, I love her so much. I love that we do this. I love that you're being yourself now and not being so, self-conscious about it. I just love you. I think you're the best. Is that it? Dave Watch. Mrs. Ryan, Dave Watch. Oh,
Dave
my God.
Watch.
All right. Yep, do the thing. Yep, there it is. Woohoo! I don't have any music. There it is. But it's something to put up so it's not so awkward while I get the calendar out. All right, Mrs. Ryan, today is October 2nd, isn't it? So we've got a few of these to do. All right, today is October 2nd. I am going to put an X on that, denoting that Mr. David Letterman is not sitting in that chair. However, if you have been paying attention and following along at home, we are on a quest to get David Letterman on this show, and we're making progress. We're doing pretty well.
A little closer every day.
It's kind of an amazing thing, and it's going to happen, and we're just so amazed by all of it. I don't know when, but Mrs. Ryan, do we have an update today on Dave Watch 2019?
The lady I know who knows the guy that whatever, blah, blah, has been traveling, and they crossed paths last week, but they're going to reconvene this week.
Very nice. And beyond that, we, I believe, are reaching out specifically. We were given permission last week. Okay, yes, so-and-so. And then we are doing that same outreach as well today. So it's a wonderfully exciting time.
It literally makes me a little
the fact that
scattered.
that somebody's waiting and prepared to take that phone call, not somebody, I mean like the guy is waiting. The guy that isn't Dave. The one guy you need to get through to get to Dave.
I got all my butterflies again that I haven't had since the very beginning of my PR day.
Really?
Yes.
That's for anybody else. That's not like Mrs. Ryan. Usually when it comes to the work stuff, she smacks right back into that person and that like take charge. Yeah. You went to a U of M. I went to U of M. Let's get this done.
I had a moment of like how exciting this is.
All right, Mrs. Ryan, I've gone on and on and on. Dave Watch is exciting. That's going to happen. Please stay tuned. It's time to ask the question that's on everyone's mind. Whoa, what's going on, Mrs. Ryan?
The VA has finally outlawed smoking at their medical facilities.
Yeah,
they did it this summer, and they're like now actively
campaigning.
The
Veterans Administration, right? The VA.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
So nation, like across the country, they're just finally implementing and really putting force behind it to get that off the medical campuses.
Yeah, I think that's a good call in general.
I'm pretty stoked about it. There was at one point in my life where I would have been up in arms, but like I completely.
Oh, when you were a smoker, sure.
Yeah, but I understand it all differently now, and I think that's an awesome way to go.
When you were a smoker, you weren't spending much time at VA hospitals.
No, I was not, but I was adamant about smoker rights, and I could smoke anywhere that was outside.
I can do whatever I want to.
I was a dick. Yeah. Fully own it, but whatever.
It came with a lot of the life that you lived. That part of that entitlement came along with it, you know?
Yes. To operate that way, you had to live in that land of entitlement.
Yeah, it's funny. Anybody I've ever respected realizes, like, you know, so-and-so, they had this job and then they don't anymore. And they're like, oh, don't you miss whatever? And like, I didn't have that stuff. That position had that stuff. Me as a man, just a guy like everybody else.
Yeah.
And it was like the most, I don't know, equalizing thing. And ever since that, I just held on to it.
Yeah, it's a good room. I need to remember. I should tape that to my forehead, I think. There's only one land bridge already in California, but they're building another one in Agora Hills that crosses over the 10-lane freeway.
Oh, wow, okay.
To let wildlife
right.
connect. Because right now, it's some of them are stuck.
We're calling that a land bridge?
That's what they called it in this article. There's the Santa Monica Mountains. There's a lot of population in there that gets stuck between.
You know, I'm with you. I'm familiar with the whole thing. There used to be a cougar that went back and forth, or a mountain lion that went back and forth all the time. That was famous, had a name and the whole thing, and I think perished in the fires last year, the Woolsey fire.
Oh, Well, it's going to be privately funded. It's near Agora Hills, so they're going to make some waves to let wildlife get back together.
These things are hit and miss. They either work great or, whoops, not in the right place and they never use them. But I still think it's great to try.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, why not?
Super neat. Something that you can do, I had no idea. You might have, actually, I should ask you. When you were a kid, did they have reading opportunities in schools for you to read to animals?
Boy, this is interesting. Let me think about that. When I was a kid, Riff was in. Reading is fundamental, and they had like Sesame Street and the Muppets, and they did the commercials and everything. So reading was very, very big. Reading to animals, I don't think so. I mean, I remember all of those nature things where you go, you see the snakes and all the things, but I don't remember. And sometimes you would go in a different room and they would read to you, but I don't think there was ever a combination.
I didn't think for me either, but I didn't know.
But I love the idea of it because I love bridging the gap between human and animal, and there really is a much smaller gap than most people realize.
Well, the Animal Humane Society is doing that, and there's different opportunities all in different humane societies I saw across the country where like there's programs for kids to go and read for an hour to pets, to animals there.
Wow, I love it. I love it.
I love it for so many reasons, and there's like different, one has parents that go with groups and one is for schools, and like there's really neat ways to get involved that way, and it's just kids can learn how to read better and animals like calm down, like it's really a cool opportunity.
It's amazing how much your environment will react to you once you take the time to act with it. I don't know exactly what I'm saying. Like even if you talk to plants for a certain way, it's Ghostbusters 2. If you react positively around the slime, you're going to get one reaction. If you react negatively, it's going to get a different reaction, It's all the same thing. Everything is sort of that way. People, everything.
Yeah, a lot of it. And then lastly,
a
guy I have come to really like. I was not a fan of initially, but Jim Carrey is going to write a novel.
Oh, yeah. I didn't read the story. I just saw the headline. I wanted to give it my full attention later. Tell us about it.
It sounds a little bit conceptually like how Swimming with Sharks for a movie, like because it's real but not true.
Okay.
So he's co-writing this.
So you're saying
novel.
Swimming with Sharks was based on some real stuff, but it's not based on specifically a real person?
Yeah.
You people remember Swimming with Sharks? It's from the 90s. It was Kevin Spacey. Probably can't even watch it anymore. It was Kevin Spacey and Frank Whaley. A bunch of people were in it. Michelle Forbes. A bunch of people that I know their names and no one else probably will.
I don't know the names of anyone other than Kevin Spacey, but like.
But it was a Hollywood executive whose assistant has a troubled life under that executive and then takes things into his own hands eventually.
Yeah. Now you brought up a good point. It might be pretty industry specific, and I thought it was all the rage.
The guy that he's replacing on the job he's won an Oscar as well. Benicio del Toro. Like everybody's in that movie.
Yeah, there's a lot of people in that movie. Well, Jim Carrey, he's got season 2 of Kidding coming out, so it's all over. That this is.
Man, do I love that
a
show.
Passion project.
Highly recommend if anybody else hasn't seen it. Highly recommend.
Kidding. It's awesome. I love that show. But his novel that he's making is kind of a spin on reality in that it's about Hollywood and agents and people in the business and blah, blah, blah.
I think it's going to be interesting.
I think it'll be
Pull the curtain
fascinating. Definitely.
And on that note, it's been... I love it, Mrs. Ryan. That's been What's Going On. Wow, great job. All right. Our guest said, what is it going to be, 20 minutes? I was like, probably like 10. It's been almost 20 minutes. Typical. 18 and a half. Mrs. Ryan, I love you so much. Let's take a quick break. Get our guest Mike Rowe in here to tell us all sorts of great stories about some famous people and some of his accomplishments himself. He's no slouch. So, Mike Rowe and more to come right after this.
A robot sex change is a complex and dangerous procedure. Replacing your testosterone with fembot lubricants can cause wild mood swings, and the effects may be irreversible. Well, let's get started.
Ow! 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 Oh! Hey!
Oh, this is gonna be great! We'll stay up late, trade stories. Ooh, let's watch the video of my ballet recital. Here it is! Sunshine Bear! Wait!
I leave this room. This is the best of the best of indie filmmakers in Hollywood sitting right here in this audience right now. It's scary to think, you know, I mean, if a bomb went off, there would be nobody left to make a documentary about it. Though it turns out at the Adult Film Awards, the award for Best DP does not go to the director of photography.
Our first contestant should know a thing or two about soul food. He's from Korea. Tell us, Jimmy, do you cook meat by the pound or from the pound? Our next contestant is Smokey. Now, it says here you used to be a human being. Well, how about that? So what brings you to the contest today?
You holding it in my bedroom.
Hey, Lois, thought you might be in the mood for a classic. Spider-Man! Spider-Man! Here comes Peter on the clothesline, but his name's not Peter, it is Spider-Man! Spider-Man! Come on, Lois, let's get busy. Maybe in the garden right here. Spider-Man! Spider-Man! Touch my can with your hand, Spider-Man!
Oh, help, Spider-Man! I'm being attacked by the evil Rosebush.
I'll save you, Mary Jane.
Oh, my God!
I don't know what they're fighting about, but I think Dad's winning. Go, Dad!
Kids, can we have some privacy, please?
Yeah, you guys are more annoying than that announcer on those TV commercials.
Hi, I'm Al Harrington, President and CEO of Al Harrington's Wacky Waving Inflatable Arm Flailing Tube Man Emporium and Warehouse. Thanks to a shipping error, I am now currently overstocked on Wacky Waving Inflatable Arm Flailing Tube Men, and I am passing the savings on to you! Take a splash at your next presentation. Keep Grandma company. African American, hail a cab. Testify in church, or just raise the roof. Whatever your Wacky Waving Inflatable Arm Flailing Tube Man needs are. So come on down to Al Harrington's Wacky Waving Inflatable Arm Flailing Tube Man Emporium and Warehouse. Route 2 in Weekapaug!
As many as you know, last year Comedy Central threw a very successful roast of Pamela Anderson. And this year, in keeping with that tradition, we're roasting another bad actor with big tits.
All right, environment, you've met your match.
Hey, get back in the sewer, Weirdy. No mutants on the surface.
But he ruined my wedding dress.
Honey, that thing was ruined the minute it went on you. That's what I'm talking about.
Oh, it always makes me laugh when I see Artie Lang on stage. Knowing I'm going to outlive him.
So, Calculon, do you want to set up this clip from all my circuits?
No, I think it's self-explanatory. Funny story. The script called for me to say yes, but I gave it a little twist.
Anecdote accepted. Snappy comeback not found.
Also tonight, astronaut Leroy Chow is here as well. Leroy Chow. There's a picture of him in space. Look. That's him in space, and that's him in Sears, I guess. That's...
You know, they say, and this is what they'll say, the reason that we're here tonight is to honor Flavor Flav. Flav, I don't know how old you are, but you don't look good. When I first saw you sitting up there, I thought it was an open casket memorial for James Brown.
Whitney, I found my wedding ring. Bobby Brown, you stupid fool. That ain't your wedding ring. Hell to the no. That's an onion ring. Well, I'm wearing it anyway. It's my prerogative.
Ring's a ring, ain't no thing love to sing about your deep fried bling.
I never seen white trash black people before.
Everybody good?
Yeah.
With that, we are back sitting here with Mike Rowe. Hi, Mike Rowe.
Hello. Where's my camera?
It's going to be, well, it depends on what you want. You want a close-up?
There you are. No, nobody
How's
wants that. I'm just hiding my girth.
Oh, here we go. There it is.
I've yet to lose the baby weight.
Oh.
You know, it's
a work in progress.
Yeah. You know,
it's a lifetime.
It is.
What's going on with you, man? Thank you so much for being here.
Well,
I
I'm
really
glad
appreciate
to be
it.
here. You guys are great. I really like your style. It's just kind of cool, laid back. Like it draws people in. It's really good.
I hope that's true.
And
Mike Rowe.
I was not aware of the show until I was asked to come here, so I did some research and found it.
Well, we sort of have been growing in a fishbowl here. We didn't really push the button on, hey, everybody, please watch us until just recently. So we're only now really starting to roll out, even though we're a year or so into it.
Ah, okay.
But thank you very much. Appreciate it.
And if I knew like you had this, I would have brought with me. I have one of Johnny Carson's mugs with the photo on it behind me.
Yes,
Now,
with one of Johnny's actual microphones too. Just because you can tell looking around. This is
Yes.
I love it all.
Now I have to ask though, is that an official sanctioned mug?
Go ahead.
Because my friend was a writer on the Tonight Show. And he was there at the end, and there was, and Johnny had like a case. He had like a crate of them,
Yeah.
a couple dozen, and they had them made at a specific place. So
That's,
that was
the place is no longer in business. Otherwise, we would have ours made at the same place, Burbank Mug Company. I
now.
can say
Just,
their
if
name.
you're interested, I've seen them go for about $2,000 on eBay. If you want to work something out,
The one that's up there is a proppy guy with the has the whatever the video collection on the back or whatever.
Right.
But the mic is one of his real mics from the New York days.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, from 30 Rock.
Actually worked in the Ed Sullivan Theater.
Oh boy!
And I
At what point?
Well,
were you on Kate and Alley?
I was, in fact.
Come on, really?
I was the audience warm-up guy.
Get out of here!
I was.
That's what. Did you know that? That's what in the '80s. That's what the Ed Sullivan Theater was. It was sitcoms, and I think mainly just Kate and Alley for at least 5 or 6 years there.
And there was a Merv Griffin was there for a little bit.
Well, they would bring all sorts of people in. I think Hollywood Squares did a week there.
What was great? First, I worked upstairs. In the building.
In the office building?
It was an AV repair shop, rental and repair shop.
What floor were you on?
I was on the same floor that later became the Letterman offices.
So at the top?
Yeah, this was in 1980.
Wow.
And
was it a dump? The pictures of the theater itself were all, it was a shithole.
Well, while I was there, they did a renovation to bring in the Kate and Alley show.
Oh, my gosh.
So that's why I got a microphone from the Ed Sullivan Theater, and I got a CBS on-air light with the logo and the whole thing, because we knew the guys, the custodians of the place.
Yeah.
Now,
and a lot of that shit would just be thrown away anyway.
Yeah. And the theater...
That's what I thought.
The theater is officially a museum, too. So there's a curator there.
I didn't know that.
So, yeah, so I was the audience warm-up guy for Kate and Alley for a couple seasons. So the curator would show me stuff in the theater. So at one point he said, I'm going to show you something nobody...
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
And I'm sorry to cut you off. At this point, was the control room still in the theater? You know what I mean? There used to be where the audience was bigger for Letterman than it is for Colbert now. In the old days, that used to be like, even when the Beatles were there, when they converted the theater for television, like a third of the audience was all control room.
Oh, I don't think it was in the seats, right?
Yeah, downstairs.
Right. It was not. I never saw the control room.
Gotcha.
But
sorry to interrupt you.
At one point, the curator said, I can show you something that nobody's seen before. Really, not many people know about.
Oh, wow.
And he took me to this off stage right, left, right, stage right. There was a panel in the wall. He pushed it open, and it revealed like this catacomb. So I said, come inside, I'll show you. At first they're like, I don't know this guy. Is he going to murder me underground? Where are we going?
I can't believe that he's probably, we're talking about the same places.
So he took me in this tunnel. It was a weird...
Underneath the stage. You're underneath the stage now, right?
And it's going off to the side, under the street. It's felt like, I wasn't sure where we were going, because it's like we're going deep into the... And it's just like a string of lights, dimly lighting it. It's like a coal mine or something.
I know where you're going. Yeah, I found that too.
Oh, you found the same thing?
Yeah, by accident one night. I know where this is going, but I can't wait for you to tell everybody, because I've never talked about it.
So that midpoint... There was a shrine to Gary Moore.
Oh, I didn't know about this. I'm sorry.
And it was a framed oil painting with like lights around it. And the curator wasn't exactly sure what that was. And he said it's just been here. And he maintains it, I guess. And then the back, it kept going. And at one point I'm going, well, he's just here to murder me and I'll be dead under the streets of Manhattan.
Yes.
But then he took
I've been down there. It's not finished. It's not a finished space. This is not a hallway.
The fact that you're like,
you
under the city, and like I know that you're at that Ed Sullivan, like you're already off in the. You might as well be at that sugar thing in Hawaii that we go to, that weird sugar mill.
All right, getting off.
All right.
But he eventually brought me to a door, and the door opens to the Cordial bar next door. And he said Gleason had it built.
He put the trap door in.
Yeah.
When he was doing the show. He did the Jackie Gleason show there.
Yeah.
When my dad was growing up in Stamford, Connecticut, he used to go on Saturday nights to go watch that show tape in the Ed Sullivan Theater. And he said when he would go in, it said the Jackie Gleason show and the Honeymooners and whatever. And then when they'd come out, it said Toast to the Town with Ed Sullivan for the next night.
Yeah. So that was cool.
That is the coolest. And it's I think it was Angela's Pizza later on. Maybe
yes.
it is now.
That was
McGee's Pub way back when.
Yeah. And then also doing audience warm up, the curator, by the way, knew like this is where Ed stood. He was able to tell me exactly.
Wow.
And
because he was probably there, right? Or at least had all the.
Well, he was given all the history of the place. He was a young guy, but I'm sure he was given the history of it all. But
this is different from the building engineer. They always had a different building engineer. This is solely like a landmark status kind of person.
It's a guy that has to kind of sort of make sure everything is being.
Don't
properly.
Cut that. Don't make that. Yeah. Okay.
And so this is how long ago it was. When I was doing audience warm up, there was a guy, one of the crew, kind of off to the side doing hacky sack, playing hacky sack. And then someone from the audience said, "Can that guy come out and do it for us, or do the hacky sack to the?" So I said, "All right, I'll bring him out center stage."
Like you're Ed Sullivan.
Right. And I said, I told him I'm going to stand where Ed Sullivan stood, and I'm going to introduce him like Ed Sullivan. I'll do my lame impression, but I told him, but every time I say the Beatles, you have to scream as loud as you can.
Good for you. That's a good warm-up guy.
So I did my, all right, before we bring out the Beatles.
Oh, that's pretty good. It's pretty good.
But they screamed, and it like sent a chill up my spine. It was like
in that room.
There was like the spirit of it showed up for a second, and it was like, wow, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Like even the audience kind of felt like that moment. They kind of froze for a second,
You're in the acoustics that's where it happened.
Yeah.
That's the spot. I love that.
Yeah, that was cool. That was great.
Well, we didn't even get to you or any of the other stuff yet, but you grew up a Letterman fan too?
Yes.
I obviously too much of a Letterman fan probably.
Yes. I used to like basically sneak into tapings, but I remember the morning show very, very clearly,
With Frank Owens.
Yes.
The band leader back then.
I desperately wanted to write for the show, and I was just kind of learning how to write. I was doing stand-up at the time.
You grew up in Connecticut as well, right?
Yes.
Were you living in Connecticut during this time?
No, I had already moved to New York City. I was doing stand-up.
Oh.
I lived in Midtown Manhattan.
So you, as a young adult, are sneaking into the... Okay.
I was 19, 20, something like that. I started doing stand-up when I was young. I did it. I did it from Waterbury, Connecticut, which is a little factory town, and I was just obsessed with stand-up, and it got to, at that age as a teenager, it's when my friends were getting high listening to Frampton Comes Alive and Foghat, and I was playing like Carlin records and the Steve Martin records and all that stuff.
You were a weirdo.
Yes, and I looked for anything that had stand up on TV, anything that was funny, and then I would just tell my friends these jokes. I was crazy
that you heard on TV, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And I was so into Dangerfield, and I would memorize the jokes. And I'm 19, but telling jokes about my lawyer and my wife.
I tell you, my teacher.
And I always used to. Rodney, especially on the Tonight Show, was amazing and great. And that's where I would be my font of, like, this is where I'm going to get my jokes to tell my friends. And
it's the well, right?
Yes. And so it occurred to me one night that maybe I can write Rodney jokes. Maybe I can write those kind of jokes, because I felt like they were so instilled in me. They were becoming part of my DNA. And then one night he was on the Tonight Show, and Johnny had him for a moment sort of really talking about his life. And Rodney was saying, he was talking about his club, Dangerfield, in Midtown Manhattan. And he talked about when he was young, when he first started doing stand-up, I think in the Catskills, his name was Jack Roy. He went by the name of Jack Roy.
Wow.
So I put this diabolical scheme together where I got my mom's manual typewriter, and I wrote 2 pages of jokes. And I sent them to Jack Roy
to get his attention.
At Dangerfield's. And I'm 17 or what? 17.
God damn, man.
And I sent them.
I'm so impressed.
And I just figured, like a couple weeks went by and I kind of forgot about it. And then I was in a finished off basement bedroom. And I just remember one day after dinner, the phone rings and then my mom at the top of the stairs like, Mike, there's a Rodney on the phone for you. I'm like, what? And I pick up the extension. I'm like, hello? Hey, Mike, it's Rodney. How you doing? You okay? All right? How are you? I'm like, what?
Holy smokes.
I got your jokes. They're pretty good. They're all right. I like them. They're pretty good. He goes, but they're not for me. They're not my kind of jokes. But you should keep writing. You got to keep doing this.
Encouraging you.
Yeah. And I told him I wanted to do stand-up. Don't come to my club. It's no good, And then he told me about the improv and Catch a Rising Star. And he kept me on the phone for like 15 minutes.
Wow.
And...
giving you advice.
Yes, and then like a week later, he sent a handwritten letter. Just like, look, it's going to take a long time to learn what's funny, and it took me 8 years before I started getting laughs, and he was wildly supportive. And eventually, when I moved to New York, probably it wasn't that long after that, a year and a half, 2 years later, I got back in touch with Rodney, and I said, remember me? And I have more jokes. Yeah, come over to my club. I'll be there Friday night, And he has this basement dressing room with no windows or anything, and it's me with my little notes, and Rodney's pacing, and I'm pitching jokes to him. He's wearing his robe, and I don't want to say she's ugly, but and Rodney, I don't know, it's all right, And at one point, he turns while I'm pitching, and stops for a second. I said, "Did something hit?" And then he turns to the sink, opens his robe, and pees in the sink. I got to pee in the sink, They don't give me a toilet down here, And I figured, all right, I'm
But that's the usual Rodney story, just a guy in his robe.
Yeah. Sometimes in Hollywood, you got to pee in the sink, That's what I brought it to Hollywood with me, the life lessons of show business. But
thanks for sharing.
Well, okay, so what got you into comedy? Because I became a massive fan of it, too, growing up in the same area. I grew up in Wilton and lived in Danbury for a while, so I was really right down 84 from you. At least where Waterbury was.
Yeah.
Were you in Connecticut becoming a fan of comedy?
Yes.
Just through the kids and you found the records and while your friends were listening to rock and roll?
It's interesting. First, I think as a little kid, my dad owned a bar in Waterbury, downtown Waterbury. It was a little...
tough place?
Can I
like
swear,
a rough
by
place?
the way? Can I say shithole?
Sure.
It was a cool shithole bar. And I was, from ages like 7 to 10... I basically hung out all the time in my dad's bar. Mm-hmm. And it was, the drunk locals and some pimps and some, drug addicts and stuff like that. But also my dad had like 10 softball teams. There was like the bar league. And the rules were if you won, then you have to bring a losing team to your bar. So it was sort of a business thing.
Yeah.
So I remember... hang out mostly with the guys from the softball team. So they were in their 20s or whatever. But I noticed like the camaraderie through making each other laugh. Those guys were all about making each other laugh.
Absolutely.
And I was sort of infected by it. And my dad was also like really corny and funny.
Is your dad behind the bar during these times, or is your dad kind of, in another room running a register?
No, he was usually behind the bar.
Yeah, okay, I'm picturing the same thing.
Yeah.
My dad was a drinker, so I grew up in the exact same environment when my parents divorced, and it was the same thing, though. I learned that, holy shit, you can command a space if you make people laugh, and it was like, that was my first comedy club experience.
Yeah.
Very similar.
Yeah, and also part of it was, first of all, kind of learning how to be funny and then being accepted into groups that you maybe would not have been accepted in.
Right. Well, you all of a sudden are qualified
to
be in other groups that you weren't qualified.
Yeah.
If you can't play in sports, what are you doing talking to the jock? But if you can make the jock laugh, holy crap.
Right. And it was also, too, like, I didn't want to drink and smoke.
This is me, too.
To hang out with the cool guys. But, hey, it makes us laugh, I used to be able to do an impression of a siren that was loud enough where... on the street corner, cars would pull over. So that was like this crazy trick that this kid can do. Let's go hang out with Mike. He's going to make cars pull over.
Yeah, it's hysterical. As a kid, this is a jackpot, gold mine.
Yeah. So,
but how did that feel for you? Did it hit all the buttons that obviously it led to this?
Yes, and it just kind of grew. It just kept growing, and by the time I was 15, 16, I just knew I wanted to be a stand-up.
Wow.
I just knew it. So out of high school, I literally teamed up with a friend, and we just started There was a Ground Round. You know the Ground Round?
Of course I do.
The
They're
little
gone
burger-
now, right?
Burger Bear place.
I loved those.
It was that and
places.
Beefsteak Charlie's. Beefsteak Charlie's and the Ground Round were the two ones that I did from that time frame.
Yeah, and the Ground Round had a contest, an amateur, you know.
You're talking about performing at the Ground Round.
Yes.
I remember that too.
Well, this was a contest, and prize was $50, and you get a Ground Round T-shirt. And I remember specifically, you get the little baseball helmet ice cream.
The ice cream,
float.
yeah.
So that was your prize.
Like Friendlies.
And I just looked at it as an opportunity, like this. I could be getting on stage in front of people, and so my friend, who became my comedy partner for this, we based our act on. There's a chance you may know this. Skiles and Henderson. No,
not at the moment, but let's go.
Skiles and Henderson were a comedy team. Probably they weren't on TV that much. I'm not sure where they probably were in Vegas or something. So the premise basically was one guy. It's almost like the ventriloquist act. Like one guy has a serious thing to do, and every time he's serious, the other guy, in this case, would make a stupid noise or sound or emphasize what he's talking about with the noise. So that I just discovered somehow I could do all these crazy vocal impressions. So we just cobbled together this idea of like, there's so many commercials on TV that if the emergency broadcast system came on and said the world was ending, that would be interrupted with commercials. That was our little premise.
Yeah, that's good.
So my friend would read like the straight side, you know, the world is being attacked, please run from your home. And I'd be like, just making these loud noises. And then he'd go, but first this word from, you know, Snickers or whatever. And then we'd stop and do a commercial, you know. And it was our, 8 minutes of that. But
it shows your creativity. It shows that you were trying to get inside there, you know.
Yeah. And what was kind of fun about it, though, I remember, and so this was like my first time on stage, so you get more and more, and it becomes more infectious. While I'm up there making all my stupid noises, I'm kind of looking around, and people are like really listening, and they're engaged, and they're into it. And then I see people from the bar side start to file in. They're like, "What the hell's going on over there?" Right. And like waitresses and people came in from the kitchen. They're like,
"Whoa,
we gotta." And already I'm going like, well, there's going to be a jet waiting for me to take me to Hollywood after this to take me onto the set.
Johnny's on the phone already, right?
Yeah. So we're celebrities already. I mean, and then we lost. We lost to a very corpulent Tom Jones impersonator.
Oh.
And then we're like, but the truth
I love Tom Jones as much as the next girl almost, but that's still.
It was so the first thought was it didn't matter because the response that we actually got a standing ovation, and I've never had that ever again in my career.
You won.
And then the funny thing is they came to us after and booked us for 8 weeks at the Ground Round at $50 a week when we were like, holy cow. And
that's more than the coupon or whatever it would have been.
And we got the ice cream.
Oh, you still got that.
So
what was your team? Weren't they the sports helmets
Red
usually?
Sox.
Oh, of course.
You get to pick your helmet.
So Waterbury was far enough up that you were Red Sox over Mets?
It was, yeah. There was a mix. There was
Yankees was a lot of the people too, but that seemed more, but from my experience anyway, where I grew up, they were more Mets fans than New York, than Yankees. Gosh, that's great. I haven't heard Ground Round, and I don't know how long. They're not in. There's not a single one left, are there?
Yeah. No. And then sort of a little bit later
Same
on.
with Beefsteak Charlie's, I'm guessing.
During the 80s comedy boom, there was some Ground Rounds still available for comics to. So I was still performing at the Ground Round in the 80s.
Was there a Ground Round circuit where you
there
could
was, There was 2 or 3, like upstate New York, maybe one in Jersey or something.
Okay. I could see like a Catskills Ground Round or something like that, or Lake George Ground Round.
This was, it actually was, what's it? Maybe Southern Connecticut or like maybe Brewster, New York.
There was one in Danbury, right on the border of Brewster. There was one, a Ground Round at a Holiday Inn at the top of the hill, right off the exit of the highway.
That's the one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what it was before it was the Ground Round years and years ago?
No.
Beefsteak Charlie's. It's a true story. Hey-o. Are you a drummer? You were tapping before, and then you've got a story about Buddy Rich, so I was just curious.
Oh, Buddy Rich.
One of the all-time greatest drummers and one of Johnny Carson's best friends.
Yes, and I got to open for Buddy Rich, and because I am a drummer, and so it was kind of like
I'm a drummer also, or what used to be.
Yeah, I until my tinnitus kind of came about.
I'm sorry.
It's not. I'm fine now, but I don't.
As long as you're not a drummer.
Yes.
Yeah.
But as a kid, I played.
What kind of music?
I was 13, 14 years old. Garage band music at the time. Smoke on the Water.
Oh yeah, okay, sure.
Johnny B. Good, that kind of stuff.
Of course. But rock and roll.
Yeah. Self-taught, but not very good. But I continued to play into my teens, probably until I was 16, 17, until I started dating, and then it goes out the window.
Yeah. That's how it is. This is so interesting. Ooh.
In fact, I remember, I also kind of started to see if I can teach myself how to play jazz stuff.
Yeah, and that's why I was asking. I came up through jazz. I loved it.
There's Moment's Notice, you know that song?
No.
But it's a very complicated, and so
oh, okay, very splashy.
And you put the headphones on and listen to the song and play along.
Mm-hmm.
It sounds great. You take the headphones off, and it sounds like you're dropping silverware,
yes,
right?
Yes.
So I remember I was playing the Punchline in Atlanta, and right next door between shows there was a jazz club, and you can sit in. And I figured, I can play that song. I can tell them to play Moment's Notice, and I'll play in like I did in my basement. And I just remember, like two horn players, and I'm like behind them, and I'm like and I'm like, I just remember the horn players simultaneously like. They're playing. They both kind of like turn around like it's a crazy moment.
Standing ovation?
Yeah.
Not that time.
Or it's Norm Crosby standing ovulation. But so yes, but when I got to open for Buddy Rich, there was a place called the Bottom Line in New York City, which was a big music venue place. So I was like, "Oh, this is great."
But you're opening with comedy,
yes,
right? Okay.
Yeah. Although
the drumming thing's a coincidence.
But I do a drumming vocal impression thing that gave me a perfect score when I was on Star Search in 1986.
You were on Star Search?
Yes.
How many stars did you get?
4 out of 4.
4 stars!
Yes.
That's amazing.
I beat Rich Jenny.
Come on.
Yes.
I watched that show. I remember that show. That's how I found Richard Jenny.
Oh, okay.
I was a kid obsessed with all the stuff. Same as you, all of this stuff. For me, it was mostly talk shows. But Ed McMahon from Talk Show had another show called Star Search where they had comedy. So I watched that too.
Yes.
They also had spokesmodels. And that's kind of nice also.
They have a whole spokesmodel story, but there's not enough time for that.
All right. Well, I stepped on you with Star Search. That's a story for another time. I hope you'll come back already.
And then I got beat by Robert Schimmel.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. It was... by the way, I just finished writing a memoir for... no one, for my family, I guess, for whatever. But,
I wouldn't say that.
And me.
Yeah, I'll read this already.
But it gets into all those stories. It's a 20-page story on Star Search because the series of events that got me there and the weird coincidence. There's a whole thing with David Brenner and then Rich Jenny and the spokesmodel that
Especially if you were there for multiple weeks. These things, sometimes were they done live? They weren't done live, but they were done week to week. So it's not like you did 6 in one day or whatever.
Yeah.
Gosh, that's amazing. All right, but back when you did Star Search was supposed to be just a by the way.
Yeah. So I just thought it was cool that I can actually get to meet Buddy Rich, and then I get to share the same stage with him.
Yeah.
I was, 24 or 5 or whatever.
So even not being a drummer anymore, you still had the
And
Buddy Rich.
In fact, there were comedians who were friends of mine at the time who played music instruments, and you could rent rehearsal space for like $20 an hour. So I was back to playing again because we would just jam, so I was kind of back into it. So this was cool. I'm just nervous. I'm backstage waiting, and Buddy comes in with his entourage, and I don't know what to do, and then he just goes by himself into the dressing room. And I just kind of get the courage. I just kind of tap on the door because I figure I can tell him I'm your opening act. And there's Buddy, also wearing a robe, no pants and spindly legs, and he's eating his, veggie thing. And he was really nice. And I'm explained myself and talked about the drums like this. And he talked in that cool scat, like, hey, that's cool, man.
Yeah, man, cool.
Yeah, that's wild, So I got to spend like 5-10 minutes with him, and he was great and nice. And then we learned later, in more recent times, like, the Buddy Rich bus tapes. Do you know about all that sort of stuff?
I've heard all sorts of things about. Do you know that he was like one of the most famous people of all time, let alone the fact that he was just a drummer?
I'm not super familiar with him.
He played
big deal.
He played drums with Charlie Parker, so it's like...
okay.
So the cool thing, too, was like...
But he was one of Johnny's best friends, so when they were on, I mean, they were on. They were just shooting the shit like this.
He's in the mix of
there was not a
everything
promotional
and
thing, so
really
they were like, you watched that show when he was on. Sorry.
And so I was, I could stand backstage, and he was literally like arm's length, but I could watch him from behind playing and stuff like that. So I was like mesmerized, and that was cool. But so I didn't know of Buddy's reputation, and it wasn't particularly prevalent, I think, at the time. But what he did is he had music. All the guys, all the horn players, I think, were young and just out of music school, and they were all great. But they all had stacks of sheet music on their stands. There had to be, 100, and each song was a number. So each one was numbered, and they didn't know what song was going to be next. So. And Buddy would go, and
Buddy flew off the cuff because it's all about energy. So he would. Just, I'm sorry.
And each song was a number too. So it would be they would finish the song, and then Buddy would go 38. So
and then you see the mad rush for everyone to find the 38 chart and bring it to the
as
top.
As Buddy starts playing already,
yeah.
And he would even like whisper the song, the number, be like, and the guy's like, "What do you say?" Everybody's
telephone game down the line,
and then they're like flipping through the pages, and then
kind of fun.
Buddy was.
But meanwhile, Buddy could play it all.
Yeah. And he was like building like an excuse to yell at the guys later. Where
were you?
I was far away into the song. You're still flipping for the music. He just.
But he was born to yell. I always heard he was a yeller. Is that what you meant about his ways?
Yeah. It just he just instigated.
Did you see that movie Whiplash? I kind of thought a little bit of J.K. was just a little bit of his tyrannical. I heard that there was. A little bit. Buddy had a little bit of that because he was a perfectionist. He was so goddamn good at what he did,
Yeah.
Sort of, I forgive it a little bit if you're that good.
So you obviously know Johnny was a drummer, right?
Yeah.
So my friend, when he was writing...
There's all sorts of people. Yeah. Chevy Chase, too.
Mel Brooks, Norm Crosby.
I didn't know that one.
So when my friend was writing on a Tonight Show, I had lunch with him, and then he brought me down to the set, and everything was empty. And so I sat at Johnny's desk, right?
Wow.
And it's just him and I.
This is around the corner.
Yeah.
Studio One.
And so my friend is standing here looking at me, and then he's like,
oh, shit. You shouldn't be there.
Yeah, and he's like, get out. And I go, come on. And then Johnny's coming in by himself. Johnny wanders in the studio, so the two of us are like hiding behind the curtain. Then Johnny comes up and just starts playing the drums. He just sits up at the thing. And
Ed's drums. Ed Shaughnessy, yeah.
That was like a cool moment.
That's a really cool moment to have witnessed.
It's funny that you would say that. I was going to say that David Letterman also is a drummer that most people don't know about.
Oh, I didn't know.
Not that great. But he also would often stumble into the studio during rehearsal or whatever and get behind Anton's drums and wasn't there and just go whacking away.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's kind of cool. There's something about all those guys.
Yeah.
Whether they all wanted to be Johnny or whether they just all, there's something in, like you in the comedy and the drumming. It's something, the rhythm, I don't know.
Yeah.
Timing.
Or it's
energy.
All the jazz guys became junkies because they wanted to be like Charlie Parker. So that's what
that's true. That's true. Well, we're talking about Letterman a little bit. One of the first guests to ever make a mark on that, I think he was on the morning show as well, but certainly the early late night show was, of course, Andy Kaufman. And you've got an Andy Kaufman story. I'll listen to any Andy Kaufman story.
Well, Andy, I mean, I was so young when I started the Improv. I was 19. It's funny talking about the drums because Andy started hanging out at the Improv again, and this was around the time when he was wrestling.
Oh.
And he was walking around. He had the collar on and the whole thing.
The Jerry Lawler days, right?
Yeah. And so I just kept kind of cornering him and very carefully kind of just started talking to him and that sort of stuff and trying to build his trust because he's even in day-to-day, he just keeps his veneer,
Okay.
So first of all, there was a really nice moment where I talked to him enough that at one point you may remember, he went on the Letterman show, and this is when he was sort of unshaven and sniveling and said he got fired from Taxi. And the security had to walk him out.
Yeah,
and
I
then
remember
people
this.
were throwing money at him and stuff like
Yeah.
that. So then I saw him the next night, and it was a cool moment because he said, they really believed it. They thought I was, like, he broke for a moment. And I'm like, oh, wow, that's kind of a cool.
Kind of a gift to give you, right?
Yeah. So then he wanted to do his Elvis at the Improv.
Why did he break? Was he excited that you to share it? Like why?
I think he
trusted you.
Yes.
That's really a neat thing.
Yeah. Because then he asked me to play the drums for him because he wanted to do Elvis on the Improv stage.
Wow.
So I got to do the Elvis thing with him. And it was simple, rock and roll drums, so I was pretty competent. And I did it, so I got to do that a few times. But then he had me referee a wrestling match on the Improv stage, which is about the size of this desk,
And there's a piano on that stage.
Yeah. And he got a real woman from the audience to come up. He agitated this woman enough to get her on stage.
Well, that was always the bit. Was it really?
But this time it was
really just a woman.
Yes.
Wow. Okay.
Because he offered $1,000 if she could take him down.
Again, that always seems like it was part of the thing.
And
so this time it wasn't.
Although I don't have proof that it wasn't a very long, elaborate, setup.
Oh, I'm not trying to be that guy.
It's a good, but what was true is that he would do the rap of yelling at the women. You should be home cooking and cleaning and doing the ironing and you women. Blah, blah.
Is that Tony Clifton or is that Andy?
It was Andy doing his wrestling.
Okay.
Wrestling.
Yeah. That's right. I
Strutting,
remember. That's right. I'm a man and I have a big brain. Yeah, I remember that.
And agitating the women in the audience. And
Awful.
I was on stage, with him. And I swear the women were so angry and crowding the stage. They were almost building like a half shell on top of each other. I was like in a thunderdome of women wanting to rip them apart.
A tidal wave is encroaching.
Yes. Yeah. And but I'm refereeing. I don't know anything about refereeing, so I'm just pretending to do something, but he was really physically whopping this woman around like a rag doll. I'm like, somebody's going to die or something. So then,
guys, be careful. There's a fake brick wall back there.
A real brick wall, by the way.
Oh, is it?
Yes.
Oh, pardon me.
Real brick. So the weird part was after that he'd go in the bar and then the women would come out. Women would come out and want to have sex with him.
What the fuck, right? Reverse psychology.
I don't know what they were.
Wow.
It was an interesting, weird phenomenon thing.
That is crazy.
Yeah.
So you refereed for one of those. That's amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, considering when you think of the acting work, I guess probably Taxi is up there. But when I think of the shenanigan work, that wrestling is the biggest. That's what you look at when you look at Andy Kaufman. Yeah.
Right?
So, and then you throw in the legendary improv. This is the New York Improv, right?
Yes.
Yeah,
and
the legendary New York Improv.
Maybe you've kind of felt these things, but kind of, to me, it was like I was so obsessed with stand-up and comedy in the comedy world and the comedy clubs when I was a kid and watching everything stand-up on TV. So it was like a weird fantasy world, you know what I mean? So then to suddenly feel like you're able to walk into the TV, and now I'm actually with these people that were kind of inside this little box,
yes.
and I get to be inside of there.
That's crazy.
It's a weird, even now, even still, I'm sitting down writing with people to me were these magical people that didn't really exist. You know what I mean? It's like being able to walk into a novel or something,
Well, that's exactly what it is. I mean, that is what it is. I feel that way even here, getting to have conversations with people like you, because I also wanted to go into this field. I did something, you'll find out about it later because it's going to blow your fucking mind, that got me off of that path for 20 years. My dad died and a bunch of shit happened, life stuff.
Right.
And then only in the last year or two have we started doing anything in our lives that is moving towards what was my original goal.
Oh, right.
So it's kind of a weird, for me, it's kind of a weird, I'm looking at you going like, oh, that's what it could be if you just fucking didn't fuck your shit up. Just keep your eye on the ball.
Well, it's interesting though too, because it is a fact of life that happens with a lot of people, and it's in my memoir that will.
Does it have a name yet?
At the moment, it's the bigger title is "It's a Funny Thing," ... and then the subtitle is "It's a Funny Thing How the Professional Comedy Business Made Me Fat and Bald."
But it's a nod to Forum, of course.
Yeah. But there is an interesting thing where obviously there's so many people, say, in our hometowns that are just more talented, and there's funny people in my hometown that are funnier and more talented than me. and kind of writing this memoir, there is a point where you kind of like look at this kind of line of demarcation. So I went to technical high school. I learned electronics, but I still wanted to do stand-up, and it was nagging at me. But I got a job at NASA working on the space shuttle, and it's what could be like a perfect career, right? So I'm falling into this career just out of high school.
Into a government-funded, yes, absolutely.
And I also, still had my high school sweetheart, and there was nothing wrong with that relationship. So it's sort of like everybody kind of hits that point of like, okay, well, this is the way life is supposed to go, and this is the way what's supposed to happen, because, being a stand-up comic in New York or Hollywood, you might as well be
you too whimsical fella.
Yeah, you might as well be a ballerina. Or, it doesn't
or a
connect.
Unicorn. It's not real. You can't do that.
Yeah. So it was interesting as I wrote the memoir to learn, like, wow, I even realized I was sabotaging those things subconsciously. I was sabotaging the job and my high school relationship because that thing was nagging at me, and I had to. My body was taking over. My brain was doing it for me. Like, no, you don't.
But you didn't have that sight then, right? Looking back, you could see it. Or did you realize at the time that you were sabotaging?
I didn't really know it at the time.
Right. No, okay. Yeah.
Like this division I worked with at NASA, like, for example, we had to build this specific NASA-designed compound in a dust-free room that took like a half an hour just to perfectly mix it and balance it.
Mm-hmm.
And it was viable for like 10 minutes, so you had to quickly... So I went in the lab and would build it and then go back. I worked with these... There was only 2 other guys there, these like Vietnam vets. And like after building it, I would take the Q-tip thing and then try to stick it in the...
Again, Letterman with the pencils.
Yeah.
A riot.
So, I was like, what am I doing?
Yeah.
And those guys had no sense of humor, and I was like, well, this isn't,
Where were you? Were you at like Hughes or
it was
Perkin-Elmer or one of those?
Danbury,
that's why I'm asking. Right by the mall above the airport there, probably.
I don't remember what it was. In fact, it was
because there are tons of those Union Carbides over. There's tons of those.
In fact, the job interview was
government contractors.
Was more of an assembly line to fix. They built meters for airplanes.
Oh, okay.
And that's what I thought I was.
It could be Hughes. They built the Perkin-Elmer, the Hubble telescope, like that didn't work. That came out of that same place in Denver.
What was weird too is that I felt like I was a shoo-in because I had my high school, I was deemed not college material through testing somehow, so they put me in a...
Is that why you were in the electronics school and the whole bit?
School.
Yeah.
So I figured I can do this job like nothing, and I was ready, and then they gave me a test as part of the interview. I get a math test. Like, what? And they give me a calculator.
Like, what's he doing?
I'm like,
this guy's a genius. Untapped potential.
But surprisingly, and again, another lesson.
I'm assuming you were off the charts on all that stuff.
I don't know if I was off the charts, but they said they came back with my test, and I'm ready to I'm looking for an escape route, and I'm like, we want to start you in our Rocketdyne division at NASA, and I'm like, but it was another lesson of like, and I keep referring to a memoir that nobody's going to read, but it's there's those moments too of like people who doubt themselves and then realize,
what was
who knows what you're capable of? Who knows what, so there's, it was a crazy, interesting lesson,
That's amazing. So at what age were you working at NASA when you started so young to go into New York to work in comedy and then...
It was just out of high school, so it was...
Oh, so before you went to New York?
Yeah.
This was the short time frame,
yeah,
and then okay. I thought maybe it was came out
because
retirement, short retirement.
Remember in Hartford, there was a snowstorm and the Civic Center collapsed. Do you remember that?
The partial of the roof.
You were probably 4 years old or something, but
no. Maybe I could have been. Yeah, I could have been
but the
really
whole roof
young.
collapsed, and they had to shut it down.
80 or something.
Yeah,
it was when the Whalers were still playing there.
Yeah, it was 1978 actually.
There you go.
Now that I think of it.
So I was alive, but barely.
And so there.
It was the blizzard of '78. That's of course what it was.
Oh,
sure.
Was it?
Yeah.
See, not even that specific, but there is a little concert hall, I guess, attached to or some kind of venue, and this was right when I was at NASA and like figuring out that this is not where I should be. This is something's happening. I need a sign. It was basically I need a sign, right? And my sister came to me and found a thing in the paper, the Waterbury Republican,
Sure.
That concert venue is having a amateur comedy contest, and first prize is an audition at the Improv. I'm like, what the, So
here in Waterbury,
yeah, and so I did that, and I won that, and I got to audition at the Improv through this contest. So it's like, it felt like things were like out of my hands. Things were happening.
And based on your other stories, you obviously ended up at the Improv, so this went well.
Yeah, so I auditioned that night as part of this contest, and they said, yeah, you can come here anytime you want. And
what did you do? Were you doing material that you'd seen other people do on the Tonight Show? Did you write your own?
My partner and I we did those 8 weeks, and then he was ready to move on with his career because he was an electronics person, and he was getting married. He was kind of taking the right road.
Yeah.
And I'm like going... I just discovered like Norm Crosby's comedy shop, so I get to see like Leno and Letterman and everybody when they're really young, and I'm like, holy cow, that's what I want to do. And then Freddie Prinze was co-hosting the Mike Douglas show. They would have co-hosts for a week, and Freddie Prinze started talking about the Improv and had clips of like the club and comics, and then he brought out a friend of his who was a roommate who was going to do his TV stand-up debut, and he was 18. And he came out and did great, and I'm like, he's a teenager, I'm a teenager. I like ran to my mom. I'm like, I didn't go to do that, and then Freddie Prinze is going to help me, and my mom was like, yeah, and you could be a ballerina too,
right?
Whatever,
or a unicorn,
not real. So it just kept building on itself. It kept finding me in a weird way. So then it really I was more inspired of so I got to go to the Improv. That's where I got to go. And then that's when that contest thing showed up.
I mean, that's unbelievable.
Yeah, it's a weird...
So you just followed the path, really.
Yeah.
Laid out, and you just said yes.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
Gosh, I love that. Are you satisfied with it? Do you feel good about the things you've done? I mean, because I'm looking at you going, oh, man, I wish I did all of those things. And I don't really. I'm looking forward to all the things we're going to do. But I love hearing these stories because it really...
did you consider doing stand-up at some point, or more as a host, or?
When I was a kid, I thought I would probably do this or work on this type of show or somehow, and then something happened, and then I did something, and then she's going to send you a link to tell you that whole story.
Prison time, was it?
No, nothing like that. But maybe should have done it for it, and didn't. Got away scot-free instead. But anyway, one of those things, I ran away from it because for whatever reason, it was attached to a part of my life I didn't care about, my dad dying and all that stuff. Mm-hmm. Plus, I did something I wasn't proud of. And it wasn't until becoming an adult. And by the way, I went and lived my life. I still worked in television. I just always was in production. I just wasn't focusing on go try to do whatever this thing you think you have can be.
Right.
And that's all it was. It was just, I sort of stamped out my own potential going like, well, you blew it.
All right.
And then, thinking, well, you've got your whole life to figure that out. And then I just didn't try for a long, long time. And until one day it was like, life, you realize you're not fucking invincible. Her health started going, and you know what I mean? Life just changed, reshuffle. Right. And then it was like, what the fuck what do you really want to do this? Why don't you just try it? Like, start a podcast. I mean, how hard is it these days?
Right.
Yeah. And then it was a year and a half ago, a husband and wife at the dining room table with 2 microphones, and then this is a year and a half later. This is what we're doing.
I think too, though, ultimately, no matter what happens, there's so much satisfaction of I really tried it, and I really put myself out there, and whatever happens. There's
success and failure.
I felt that in so many ways, and unfortunately, this town really is about making you question your ability and yourself and that sort of stuff.
Shattering your reality.
Yeah. I always go back to the story of Mike Nichols, who got to spend most of his career in New York City, but whenever he would come to L.A., the second he got off the plane, he's like, how am I doing?
That's funny.
Yeah. It just, that's great. And I think that might be why I wrote the memoir, just so I can look at what I've done, because you get lost in the fog of war so much. It's like, I did some pretty cool stuff, and I got to really work with or hang out or meet all these people that I was mystified by as a kid, and get to know them and work with them and write with them, and and it's funny, even you were probably the same, even as a dopey kid of like thinking I want to get into this world, like I'm going to win an Emmy someday. And then finally like winning an Emmy was like, I didn't even consider like what it meant in the industry. It was like, it was more of like I hit a childhood goal, and
those are the only timestamps that matter to me.
Yeah.
For whatever reason, I'm just heartstrings.
Yeah.
So that's why we do all this.
Yes.
That's just one of the reasons. Of all the people you've met and worked with, and you said you're grateful and all of it, is there anybody that you always wanted to and didn't get the chance because maybe they've passed away or said no? I don't know. I'm assuming that they've passed away. Or just didn't get a chance to.
Well, there was like these handful of people that I wanted to at least meet, and I think I've almost done it.
Yeah, I'm pretty close on that one too.
Albert Brooks was...
He's the other person on the list. Tell me anything about Albert Brooks because I'm a huge fan, and I hope you'll come back and we'll talk more about Albert Brooks.
First of all, I mean, he was the first guy that like did kind of what was considered the non-joke. You know what I mean? It was like sort of comedy about comedy. I mean, Steve Martin did it. You know, it's funny because it's a dumb joke. You know, and it was a lot of commentary on comedy. So I mean, as a kid, I just was obsessed with that. You know, it just talked to me for some reason.
Were you watching him on the Tonight Show like I was? Is that what you're basing it on? The Speak and Spell,
and then and then his because then I was like trying to figure out how can I do those kind of things.
Right, it expands the box a little bit.
Yeah,
well, Steve Martin did that for me as well.
But during the writers' strike, it was already 10 years ago or something. But I was picketing I would go to the Radford lot, picking with writers
around the corner
walk in circles, and Albert Brooks was there like every day.
That's cool.
Like actually walking or just bringing donuts?
No, he was
wow,
walking.
Great.
He'd have a buddy with him or something. And I just didn't have the courage to kind of talk to him. I know he's a little bit of mercurial and, you know, but I would just kind of walk behind him to listen to what he's saying to his friends, just trying to pick up on conversations. And
is he still back there? Yes, he's still there.
There was some stalking going on, particularly healthy. And but it dragged on long enough where then the agencies started to send like food trucks and water trucks, and there'd be like pizza, you know, for everybody and barbecue. And
that's kind of why I was asking if he was bringing donuts or not. Yeah. I remember that.
And so then other agencies, even like smaller agencies, felt they need to get on the bandwagon and give the writer some sustenance, I guess. And there was a guy from a boutique agency, and the writers are walking in circles. And this, I think it was probably the head of the agency, had like a plastic Ralph's bag, and he had these little Sun-made raisin boxes. And they had like a Kinko's label of like whatever the, you know, Joe Schmo agency. And he's handing them out to the writers, these little, you know, and then, so Albert Brooks again is in front of me, hands it to Albert, and just because I happened to be behind him, he turned around and went into this rant. And it was
you were the audience. You happened to be there. Yeah.
And he's like, so what do I do? What do I do? I call CAA. Hey, CAA, it's Albert. How are you? I'm doing pretty good. Look, I got raisins. You never gave me raisins, so I have to leave you. You know, just the idea of like the way hello, CAA.
Yeah.
It's like he's telling the whole thing. But he went into this rant just because I happened to be there and did it for me. And it was like a great moment.
Absolutely. You were the recipient of that energy. That's fucking awesome.
Yeah, it was great.
And a private show.
Yeah.
I can't wait for you to put out that memoir. Like, it's moments like that are so cool that no one knows about, that are so neat.
Are you going to put it out? Are you going to publish it? Like you said, I mean, are you going to try to sell it?
I talked to my agent, and I didn't even know they had a book department, but they hooked me up to the agent there.
Hello, CIA.
Hello, how are you? I'm pretty good. I'm doing pretty good. And I kind of talked to them about it, and to them it seems like a viable thing because obviously I'm not famous, but because I worked with famous people and worked on big shows.
That's what I'm getting at. These stories are great.
They haven't read anything yet. I mean, literally just finished it, you know, a week ago.
Oh. Oh, wow. This is great. Congratulations.
Yeah.
That's huge.
Well, thanks.
It's a big deal.
First I gave it to my sister to read because I talk about my family. I'm going to make sure nothing's going to, you know, destroy any family relationships. But, you know,
smart.
You can write stuff that it seems innocent, but someone can go, how did you? And I have a couple of friends who have written books. My friend Steve Stoliar was Groucho's I guess he was sort of his assistant and curator and all this sort of stuff, but he worked in Groucho's house for the last 4 years of his life.
Wow.
And he wrote a memoir about that, and he's been writing other comedians' memoirs, so I gave it to him to read and one other friend who helps comics with their books.
Awesome.
And the response so far is like, they both said the same exact thing, whereas I was going to flip through it, and then I started reading it, and I read the whole thing.
That's your hook, though. That's our thing, too. Nobody knows who we are, so if you can get them to just glance at it, they might stick around.
Right.
I think you're certainly interesting enough for that. Let me check my phone. No, I'm just kidding. I'm doing an Instagram story picture. Are you on the social media? It's time to do our billboard.
I'm on the Facebook.
Oh, okay. I'm on the Facebook.
I haven't done Twitter, but I should.
Never.
A little bit, but I don't get the. Is this for?
I'm just taking a picture.
Is it for the collectible plate that you're gonna?
Yeah, no, that'll be for the that'll send up on the Instagram.
All right. My eye is irritating for some reason. I don't.
Let me get a close up. So Facebook for that, and then you've got some stuff that you're working on now that's not out yet. But can we talk about the Netflix stuff?
Well, the stuff is out.
Oh, it is. Oh, okay.
There's been a long-running show that started in Canada called The Trailer Park Boys, and it was a live-action fake documentary show. But then,
is that you? Is that yours?
No,
oh,
no.
Okay.
The guys in the show created it, and they've been doing it in Canada for 10 or 12 or 13 years. And then they tracked me down because they wanted to take the live show and make it into an animated show.
Okay.
And we, from what I understand, will be starting a third season of the animated version of that. And
Fantastic.
It's been on Netflix.
Well, I'm aware of the animated Trailer Park Boys on Netflix, so that is not only connected with the old live action one, but it's also now you're writing on it, or
yes, yeah.
Fantastic.
I'm writing and running the animated side for them.
Nice.
And
fantastic.
Yeah, it's been fun with those guys. Those guys are fantastic, and it's just a small, nice room, and it's great. We don't have to deal with any notes from anybody, or there's no.
Where are you? Are you on the Netflix lot?
Is it
like where are you? Where do you have to go? Where are you working?
Nova Scotia.
Seriously?
I'm as far away from Hollywood as it gets.
But are you serious?
Yeah, I go there for the writing. I get to do a lot of the posts from home.
It's also one of the most beautiful places, certainly on this half of the world.
Yeah, it's really nice. But I'll go for a few months at a time.
Are you
hiring?
So you write there and then do post here?
Yeah.
That's pretty rad.
And animation's done overseas or whatever?
A lot of it's done in Canada.
Oh, really?
There's some animation houses out there that we kind of...
Is Deke still around? They were Canadian when I was a kid. Remember that?
Yeah.
When you were a kid, like, look, it says Dick after the cartoon. And then we got to most of the things. There's other stuff, though. There's a lot of other things. Would you come back sometime, I hope? Would that be...
Yes. I'm glad you
I mean, did you enjoy this enough that you would consider coming back sometime?
Yeah. Thanks for sending the car. I'm glad you flew me in.
From Nova Scotia.
You flew me in from Nova Scotia, and I appreciate the hotel.
No, it's just that time-wise, we're already long, but I want to get into these other things. I don't want to just glance by them. If that's
it'd be great if somehow this, with the memoir, if worst case scenario, I'll self-publish it because I want to get it to my family and stuff, and then maybe
PDF it to us.
Right. Just kidding. But I can come and actually plug a book. That would be
That would be awesome.
All right,
love
cool.
that. In the meantime, did you enjoy this experience?
It was
it painless?
Very nice. Do I get a little prize? Do I get like the turtle wax like the old days?
Oh my gosh.
Remember that?
Yeah, we do. We need to do that. In fact, we can start doing that because we do have some product sponsors of like T-shirts and shoes and stuff like that. So it's a good idea.
Yes.
We're also working on our own merch and all that stuff. More announcements on that as we go. But you're good for this? I feel like we hit all the things.
That's great.
Can't wait to tell you more about me, but we'll do that off the air.
That's all right. I'm ready.
Mrs. Ryan?
I'll come back and I'll do you, and you can sit here. And
I love that. Do you know who Steve Mazon is? Have you ever heard that name? He did the documentary Dying to Do Letterman. He was a stand-up.
Oh, yes.
Do you remember that from 5-10 years ago? He was a guest on the show, and he came back about 2 weeks after he was a guest on the show so that he could ask me questions after watching this as well. So by all means.
Let me know. I'll send it to you.
And then what do we have tomorrow, Mrs. Ryan? Tomorrow is Vanita and Preeth. Sorry, my own handwriting. And they are, what would we call them? Porsche content creators?
They have a really great how they came together story that involves Porsche, similar to ours, and they work a lot with Lorena. So
Women in Porsche over at Esposito.
yeah, it's all part of our community. I'm stoked to talk to them.
Very cool. And they're a nice Porsche couple. So there's that. That's what's going on tomorrow. All right, Mrs. Ryan, I love you so very much.
I love you too.
Mike Rowe, we love you so very much. Thanks so much for being here, man.
If only you meant it.
Oh, I do. I'm one of those guys. We love everybody at home. Please love one another, and we will see you tomorrow.
Just want the credits. Yeah. Can you do that? Walk over.